Yes, we do have bananas. We have golden bananas today. With string beans and onions, cabbage and scallions, all kinds of fruit and say. We have an old-fashioned tomato, Long Island potato. But yes, we do have bananas. We have golden bananas today. We have golden bananas today. We have golden bananas today. It's all about satisfying the customer.
Hi, this is Charlie Perrillo, your fresh green grocer. Today's show is something different. I have a guest here that's Manny. Come close, Manny. Look into the camera.
Good morning, Charlie. Thank you for having me.
And today we're going to have the history of bagels. You know, I always wondered, bagels. Bagels are all over. There isn't a restaurant that doesn't carry bagels. They all have bagels. And I would like to know how they make bagels, some history on the bagels, and I got just a man for our show today. And his name is Manny. His father was in the bagel business way back in the Russian days. So, Manny, start your show. This is your show, Manny.
Okay. First of all, my father came from Russia, but in Russia he was an apprentice when he was about 12 years old with a man by the name of Muttel Kramer. And Muttel Kramer taught him how to make bagels and how to bake bagels. There's a difference between making and baking. You have to make the dough, and after you make the bagels, they have to rise, and then you first put them into the oven and bake them. At that point in time, he was an apprentice, and he lived and he slept with this Herr Muttel, and his whole life revolved around the bagel industry in Russia.
How many years ago was that?
Well,
Manny?
this goes back, it's got to be about 85 years, no, 90 years ago. 90 years ago.
Manny, let me ask you something. Go ahead.
Because
What's your guess when bagels got started?
bagels started at the
How
same...
how far back do you think?
This here fellow, Normie Zlotnick, he had his fourth generation bagel baker. He has a bakery on Southwest 18th Street between Power Line and Military Trail. He's the one that gave me all this equipment so that we can put the show on today. And he's got the finest and best bagel because he's got the know-how for 4 generations.
My, that's a long time, Manny.
And I always fight with him. I said that my father started the industry, and he says his grandfather's grandfather started the industry. So we fight all the time.
Isn't that amazing? He's a friend of yours?
I've known him yes, he's a friend of mine. We baked, we worked together. As a matter of fact, we just celebrated his wife's 65th birthday party just last week. I see him very often, and like I say, he was good enough to give us these bagels, the dough, and this equipment so that it can put on the show today.
Well, before you start, something bothers me. What is this glove for?
Well, I want to show you how we did it the old-fashioned way.
That's what we like to know.
I want to show you how we started the bagels from scratch. The only thing we don't have is an oven, but I'm going to show you everything from the beginning until you put the actual bagel in the oven and take it out.
Okay.
That's why you cannot make bagels in the house, because you don't have the proper equipment. I'm using this little pot. I'm using this little pot, but the regular bagel pot is a tremendous kettle. And if you want to see what the kettle looks like, you can go to the Festival Flea Market, and the Gourmet Bagel Bakery there has the actual oven that I worked on and the actual kettle that I worked on. And that's where you have to go to see that equipment. Most of the equipment, when you come into a bakery, it's in the back. But I always had a bakery where they could see the way I produced it.
This is a picture of you when you were a young man?
That picture was taken 25 years ago when I had a bakery of my own on Queens Boulevard in New York.
You know, you were handsome then?
I was a handsome devil then, and all the women used to love me.
Yeah.
They didn't
and
know
who
me
was this?
My original, They used to call me Zeeskite, that's sweetness.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's,
And that's because now it's a caricature that I had made at the Concord Hotel. We used to go up to the country every summer with the family. All my kids grew up there. They loved it. And this caricature artist was at the Concord, and I told him to make me look like a bagel and the bungalow that I lived in. And that's what it looked like.
Manny, I think we should get started and stop baking.
Okay.
Go to work. I'm gonna put the pot on. I know you want this more hot.
I need it hot.
We gotta,
First,
we're gonna get it real hot.
First, you have to understand that we don't have the equipment to make the dough. That's why I went to my friend on Southwest 18th Street, Bagel City South, to get the dough.
Oh, that looks like pizza dough.
No, this is not a pizza dough. A bagel dough is called a bagel dough because it's generally a stiffer dough than what a pizza dough is. Pizza dough is all yeast and it rises right away. This is a special dough that makes the bagel different and unique from any other bread that you can hear.
That looks beautiful. You know, looks,
Now,
it looks, if you would take that blob and put it in an oven, what would happen?
it would blow up to like a basketball.
Yeah?
It would just turn round. It
But
would
you
just
think,
get
you
round.
think you'll be able to eat it? Put the knife in and eat it? You don't think it'll bake inside? It wouldn't
Well,
bake?
no one's ever tried it, Charlie.
Yeah, you know, I'm inquisitive. I like to take that and put it in the oven and see what happens.
Well, it'll just blow
And
up.
I got you to blow up.
It'll just bake like a piece of bread. It'll be flat. It's not going to be a bagel.
Okay.
The thing that makes a bagel different
There's a
from any
hole.
other piece of bread is that it's cooked before it's baked. That's the complete secret of a bagel. It's not boiled. It's cooked.
Yeah,
If
that
you
always
boil it, you
surprised
kill it, and you have to keep it and mix it. You have to keep
That
mixing
always
the bagel.
surprised me. How, it would always surprise me.
What?
You know how, but you
Oh,
boil
how?
it, then bake
Okay,
it.
so first, you
Okay,
make
go
the
ahead.
dough, which consists of flour, water, yeast, and salt. Okay, then you have to get it, and you notice how nice this piece of dough is. It's beautiful, but it's very ripe now. So what we did in the good old days is what we called a flap. First, you made a flap. After you made a flap, you made a strip. Now this here dough is very ripe, so it's going to be very difficult. Now, in the good old days, it took 3 men to make a bagel. One man, all he did was make what's called a strip. He would make the dough, and he would make the strip. Now, when you roll out the dough, your fingers never leave your hand, and you're not supposed to use your fingers, you just use your palm. You'll notice you use your palm. Now, what happens now, you take the end, and you squeeze it together, and then you just rub it. And that's called a strip. Right?
Yeah, it's
Now,
interesting.
I don't know how many strips you want, Charlie, but I'm going to just make
a
this
few,
last one.
We don't have to make a lot of them,
No,
just to
this is all
show.
I'm going to make. This is all I'm going to make. I just want to show you how we knead the dough with your fingers and
Oh,
the
another
thumb,
way.
and you squash it over, and you press it with your palm.
Oh, you continue to strip, in other words.
Yeah, in other words, we make a whole, the man over here, all he does is what I just did.
Make strips.
He makes the dough, makes the strips. Cuts the dough and makes the strips. Now, he's called the third hand. The second hand, all he does is stand here and make the bagel. Now, once you get it here, you snip it off, you give it a push, and you put it down. And there's your bagel. That's a secret that no one should know in Winmore. Don't tell anybody about it.
No, we're not gonna tell no one.
Now, while I put that down, you notice my left hand is rolling to
Yeah.
make the next bagel.
That's right. I like
See, now I get it, and we do the same thing. Now, I haven't done this in about 20 years. Now, here's how it goes. Now, what happens is this is the way we used to work.
Show me Show me how you used to work.
Well, this
Oh, boy, look at that man go. Look at that man go.
and I was a slow man.
Oh, God.
Now, you have to understand that this goes on for hours. You just do this for hours. Now, once you fill up the board, which I'm not going to do,
No,
it's
right,
about
right,
2
you
dozen,
don't
you
have
put
to.
about 2 dozen bagels on the board.
You know, Manny,
Just for,
I'm going to make a bagel. I'm gonna make the strip.
let me see you.
I'm
now,
gonna make the
now, when
strip.
you cut it, you got to cut it fast because it's
I
very
know.
ripe.
I know. Now, wait. You stop me. See if I'm right or wrong.
Now,
What?
now, I want you to know, don't tell the union about this.
No, I won't.
Not with the knife, Charlie. You'll cut yourself.
Okay. Then you do this.
You remember when you were working with Play-Doh, right?
No, wait a minute. Is this strip coming along all right, or what should I do?
Well, you're doing fine, Charlie. Now
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Just a minute.
If the union never found out about this, they would chase me out of it.
Now, this is a strip.
That's called
Now-
a strip.
Well, let's make believe I made 2 strips.
No,
And now I do. I got 2 strips.
well, that's close, Charles. That's pretty good.
Huh?
I can have you in one week. I
No,
have to make
no,
a bagel.
I'm gonna make a bagel.
So why'd you cut it?
Well,
Get the knife out. This is very important.
Okay.
You have to watch that knife.
how's that look? No,
Well,
Pretty
I
ugly.
don't want to comment on because it's very.
You're
Well,
rather-
we're
you're
working-
rather-
We're working against
You'd
something.
rather
because
not comment.
This dough is very ripe because this dough should have been made 2 hours ago.
Oh,
But see, you have to get into a rhythm. You have to get into a rhythm. Now, there are guys that used to make 5,600 of these things in 2.5 hours. That's 5,600 in 2.5 hours. I try to sit down and figure out how many bagels I made in my lifetime, and I came up to a small figure of 14 million bagels.
That's a lot of bagels.
That's a lot of bagels.
You know-
Now, the next step is this. We used to take this here board and put it into a rack. And then you'd have 20 of these boards in a rack. This is the way we knew how many bagels we made. We used to get paid piecework. And that's an original thing that bagel bakers started. Only bagel bakers got paid piecework. This way, it was fair to the boss and it was fair to the worker. When you get a worker that could make only 2 of these boards an hour, and then you get another worker that makes 10 boards an hour, it's not fair. So whatever the order was, he got paid for the order, whether it took him 2 hours to do the work or 5 hours to do the work. My first job, a man by the name of Shlomo Lekorva got sick. And after learning and being an apprentice for 3 months, they called me to save the dough because in those days there's no refrigeration. So I went to the bakery and I baked off those bagels. It took me 5 hours. The 5 hours, if I had to do it now, it would take me about 3.
Big difference.
So that's the difference. That's the difference of being fast and slow.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I like to say one thing.
Go ahead, you talk.
Bagels today are all over the world. There's trillions of bagels a year. It's in billions of dollars business a year on bagels. All different companies have bagels. Lenders have bagels. There's egg bagels, an onion bagel, there's a seed bagel, there's a garlic bagel, there's all kind of bagels. Bagels industry today is unbelievable.
Worldwide.
Manny, what is this?
The reason I put this in Russia, in the old days, they used to put bagels on a string. They didn't put them in bags. The reason they put them on a string is because it gave the bagel a chance to cool off. If you put these hot bagels in a bag, they're going to get stuck together.
Right.
So they used to put them like this, and besides, in the stores, it used to look nice hanging up like that.
Yes.
And people used to buy 3 bagels, 6 bagels, a dozen bagels, up to 3 dozen. They used to put anything up to 3 dozen. And of course, at that time, they were like a penny a piece, 3 for a nickel. The prices changed.
Yeah.
And then you had all kinds of bagels. Okay, now once we made the bagels and it laid in and it rose, this is what it looked like. Looked like this. Now, when you put this in here, it's gotta cook. Oh, see that? Now you mix it.
You need something to mix that?
Okay, well, okay, the idea is to mix the bagel. I need that board, Charlie. That board over
All
there.
right, okay, I'll get it.
How many bagels have you made in your lifetime?
About 14 million.
Wow, Charlie's...
And I'm sure it was more than that. I tried to figure it out, and there's too many zeros.
Now, Charlie, how many bagels have you eaten in your lifetime?
Eaten? I've eaten a few. Now, what we did is once the bagels were cooked, we would put them on this here board.
Why do you wet that?
We have to wet it down to prevent the bagels from
You
sticking.
don't put oil or...
No, water. We don't use any oils, no preservatives, everything is pure. Now, when we take these bagels out, we would put it on the board.
In other words, that's already cooked?
These are cooked. These are ready to be baked. These are good, eatable, edible bagels. And I'm just showing you the difference between a bagelette and a regular sized bagel. Now, what we do, you can shut this. What we do now, and we don't have the oven, that's why you can't make it in a house. You have to have an oven with a brick floor or a transite floor. When you take a look at the ovens today, the floor of the oven is transite or bricks. I worked one time on a coal oven. After the coal oven, we went to oil. Now, the oil used to have a nozzle, and the carbon used to get caught on a nozzle, so we switched to gas. And we found out that gas ovens are the best. It's a regular gas oven with a bank of flame, and that's what cooks the bagel.
Now, how do you get the seed, like the onion, the
Oh,
seed?
yes.
All these
Well,
different...
before you put the bagels over here,
Like a bagel like this.
okay,
Now, what happens to that
if
bagel?
I wanted to put onions, I would have put onions on the bagels before I put them down. I would put the onions or the garlic or the sesame
Okay.
seeds over here. And then I would put the bagels on top. Now I'll show you what happens. Once you put this into the oven and they dry on the top, however, they're stuck on the bottom. So in order to unstick them, we used to take this string and string them like this. And that would unstick them. Now what we would do is turn the bagels over like that. See, so now you've got all your condiments over here. And then it bakes, and then you have your bagel.
In other words, this
And
what
then this
happens
is what
here.
comes out.
How come there's some seed on the bottom like?
Well,
it's
because
loose?
when bakers, if you're a good baker, that doesn't happen.
Okay,
If you're not a good baker, you're supposed to wash off the seeds.
Right, okay.
But what they do is they don't care. They give it a fast wash, and a lot of seeds remain. Sometimes garlic remains, and you have a sesame bagel that tastes like garlic, or you have a plain bagel that tastes like garlic. But that's the way they put the condiments on. They're right over here before you put it in the oven. But this was very,
That's
very
amazing. In other words,
important in our day.
you think in those days, but today, today's bagels,
Today's bagels are made entirely different. They're still made on boards.
they're still made on
They're
board.
still made on boards, but what they do is they put it into an oven.
Now this
No,
here,
they're putting on, they're different ways. They take this here whole board and they put it into an oven, and steam comes out and heat comes out, and they push a button, and that's the difference between good bagels and bad bagels.
you know, that was quite interesting, you know. I really never knew, Manny, that bagels had so much work in them. I thought that bagels, they just made it and
All
put
that
them in the
man
oven,
did
that's-
was make the bagels. From here, the baker takes over. And he's the one that
And he's the
has
one
the
that makes
helper that puts them into the kettle. And
he
this
makes
is what
them-
they look like after they're baked.
Well, blueberry.
There's a blueberry.
Now,
Yeah, you make the different kinds of dough with all the condiments in there, and they're making all kinds of bagels. But the best bagels are still your plain bagel, sesame bagel, salty, and poppy. Those are the most popular bagels. Now, this is
An egg.
egg bagels.
How do they get it that way?
They're putting an egg wash in there. They put in a few eggs, the broken eggs that they have in the store, they throw into the dough, but then they have a wash or a coloring, an egg coloring, and that's what comes, but it doesn't taste like egg. It looks like an egg. Even a pumpernickel, these are secrets. Even a pumpernickel, if you close your eyes, you'll never know that it's pumpernickel. Steamer's pumpernickel was a pumpernickel bread. All these guys, that's all they made. Now, the beautiful part about bagels, we had 33 bagel bakeries in New York. New York was the place where bagels really grew up, where people began to know what it was. All the largest restaurants had bagels, and
And where did it start? Did it start in New York City? Here,
well,
you know,
when
you
all
know.
the immigrants came, most of them came to New York.
Yeah, right.
When people came over from Russia and from Poland, these bakers had to get a job, so so they got jobs in bakeries, and then the union started, and there were 33 bakeries with 185 bakers. Now, I forgot to show you, the reason for that glove is that when you put
Yes.
this here board in the oven, it's hot. And when you have to turn it over, what we did is we took the glove, and I got these gloves by the gross. They're lefties and righties. And when we would take it out, we would handle the board like this to turn it over, because this board gets very hot. And eventually, you know, it wears down. So you keep changing boards all the time.
You know, today bagels is a big industry, and almost every restaurant sells bagels with cream cheese and jelly and jam. I'm gonna tell you something. We're gonna have a bagel that you could make a sandwich like a sub.
That's
With
right.
salami, you know, ladies and
Corned
gentlemen.
beef, any kind of.
I've tried it already.
Any kind of cheese.
I made a wedge out of a sub out of one of these bagels. I put in there prosciutto,
It's very versatile.
capovolone, provolone, on a toasted bagel. It was out of this world.
No, it's out of Russia.
It's out of Russia.
It's out of Russia, because my father was the original bagel baker, and nobody can dispute it, because nobody knows where it
In other
started.
words, yours was out of Russia.
Out of
Let me
Russia.
hear you say that.
Out of Russia. The
Oh.
bagels are out of Russia.
Well, I tell you
Out of my
something.
father. If
The
not for my
bagels,
father,
the
I would
bagels
never-
I have, when I have one of these bagels here, cut,
And you're gonna put jam on it.
I
with
put,
cream
I
and cheese.
first toast it, then put jam on it.
I want you to notice, this is where we had the poppy seeds, the onions, and the garlic, and here are the boards that we put. You see, I have stuff on the boards right now, like sesame seeds or whatever, and you put the bagels on there. Now I'm taking the bagels out of the oven with a peel. The stick that I use is called a peel. And we used to put in 20 of those boards at one time, and it would be 5 shelves. And you just kept feeding the oven and taking out bagels, feeding the oven, and every shelf was cooking or drying off the boards.
Manny,
And that
let
was
me
the
ask you
system.
something. Is that all you did all your life?
I never
Bagels?
worked anywhere else.
You did bagels from how old were you when you first started?
I came out of the Army. When I graduated high school, the war was on, the Second World War was on, and I went right into the Army, and when I came out, I became an apprentice in a bagel bakers union, and it was father to son at that time. The reason it was father to son is because we had 185 bakers. If we would take in another 185, nobody would make a living.
Right.
It's just like there's only one Charlie.
Yeah.
If I had to come and compete with you,
Yes.
it wouldn't be that good. It just doesn't work that way.
I know, it
It's
doesn't
like
work.
two chefs, like two chefs in the kitchen when all you need is one.
I tell you,
And it's been a pleasure to be here, Charles.
hey,
And there's,
is there anything else? I see a lot of written stuff here.
well, I was telling you stories about when my father wanted to become a citizen. He came before the judge, and the judge said to him, "What do you do for a living?" And my father says, "I'm a bagel baker." And as soon as he mentioned that magic word, bagels, he says, "You're a citizen." And that's a true story. That's a true
What do you
story.
think, Angelo? Angelo, did you hear that?
That's a true
Angelo, hey,
And-
are you listening? Well, I tell you something, this here is so interesting, this is something new. A bagel. I was always with the Italian cooking, but today is bagels. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy.
Now I want to tell you, the reason for the hole in a bagel is very important.
Yes.
The reason for the hole is, remember I had you put on a string, number 1. Number 2, when we used to put bagels in a bag, we wouldn't count one at a time. We would take 3 bagels in each hand and put them in a bag. That's 6. 2 hands was a dozen. 4 hands was 2 dozen. That's how we did it fast. We didn't count one at a time. Everything was mathematics. And that's the way we picked them up. And the same thing when we put the bagels on a board. You don't put one bagel on a board at a time. You take a bunch of bagels in your hand and you just lay them out.
Yeah, see what happened?
Everything is fast. Now, one of the other things about a bagel is that it's round. Now, the roundness of
Don't
the
tell
bagel,
me, I know it.
the roundness of the bagel signifies eternal life. And that's what we have here in Winmore. Oh, Winmore is Shangri-La, and it's eternally Winmore. And just like Winmore is going to be eternal, so will the bagel be eternal.
Hey, that's good news.
And not only that, but when somebody dies, there's a tradition in the Jewish religion that you have bagels in the house and eggs. Eggs signifies the beginning of life, and this is life everlasting. And that's the reason for the whole, and then of course,
Manny, let me
That's
say
it.
this. I've learned so much about bagels today, and
It's a
and
magic
I'm sure the viewing audience today, this is a different type of a show, and I'm sure that they're going to really enjoy this. It's history on bagels, and I tell you, Manny, I thank you very much for coming as my guest today.
thank you for having
And-
me. But I want to tell you, if you want the best bagels, you got to come to this here Bagel City South.
Okay.
Because that's
good
4
to know.
generations of real live bakeries.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
And they use the best ingredients, and tender loving care is also very important.
Okay, that's
Tell me
good
where
You
to
they're
know.
have to be
located.
careful to make the bagel.
Where are they
The
located?
shape is beautiful. Notice how the shape is gorgeous, and when they come out of the oven, they're just as beautiful.
Where are they located?
They're located on Southwest 18th Street. You take Power Line Avenue down to Southwest 18th Street in Boca Raton, you make a right turn. It's about a mile in a pink shopping center between Military Trail and Southwest and the Power Line Road.
That's wonderful. Okay,
And
Lee.
tell him Manny sent you, and Charlie was, and thank him because they loaned us all this here stuff. And this is one of the T-shirts that I had when I had my own place of business.
But it's different size.
Okay. Of course,
Okay.
that's a small one.
Hey, today wasn't it interesting? I tell you, I really, really enjoyed this program because it's an entirely different program. And I thank Manny for coming, and I've learned so much today about bagels, and I'm sure you probably did too. This is Charlie, until next time, saying goodbye, and happy bagels and happy bagel.